I pulled into my driveway after a week visiting my sister in Vancouver, and my heart stopped. There, planted firmly in my front lawn, was a bright yellow moving sail, "Everything must go, Saturday 9 a.m." sign. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at those words. I hadn't put that sign there. I lived alone in this house, the same house my late husband Gerald and I had bought 42 years ago in North York. The same house where we'd raised our daughter, Catherine. The same house I'd sworn I'd never leave. I grabbed my purse and hurried to the front door. Before I could get my key in the lock, it swung open. My granddaughter Olivia stood there, her bright smile faltering slightly when she saw my face. "Grandma, you're home early. I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow." "Olivia," I said, keeping my voice steady, "why is there a moving sail sign in my yard?" She reached out and took my arm gently, guiding me inside. Come in. Let's talk about this." I made tea. The living room looked different. Smaller somehow. It took me a moment to realize why several pieces of furniture were missing. The antique side table that had belonged to Gerald's mother. The brass floor lamp we'd bought on our anniversary trip to Montreal. The bookshelf that Gerald had built with his own hands. "Where are my things?" I asked, my voice coming out quieter than I intended. Olivia pressed a cup of tea into my hands. "Sit down, Grandma, please." I sat on the sofa, thankfully it was still there, and waited. "Look," she began, perching on the ottoman across from me. "I've been worried about you. You're 73 years old, living alone in this big house. Do you know how much work it is to maintain? The yard, the repairs, all these stairs. And honestly, Grandma, you don't need all this stuff. Most of it is just collecting dust. That stuff," I said carefully, "is my life, Olivia." I know. But holding on to the past isn't healthy. You need to look forward, not backward. That's what the grief counselor I've been seeing says. She deals with a lot of elderly clients, and she says, "You've been seeing a grief counselor about my grief?" Olivia flushed. "Well, not exactly. I mentioned you, and she gave me some advice. She said downsizing is one of the healthiest things seniors can do. It's liberating. Don't you want to feel lighter? Freer?" I took a sip of tea. It was too sweet. Olivia always used too much honey. "And the moving sale? I've been planning it for a few weeks now. I wanted to surprise you with how much progress we could make. You were gone, and I thought, what better time? I've been going through the basement, the attic, even some of the closets. Grandma, you have things down there you haven't touched in decades. They're mine to not touch. But think of all the families who could use these things. That old crib from when Mom was a baby, some young mother could really use that. All those tools in the garage that you'll never use. Gerald's fishing equipment, his golf clubs. Something cold settled in my chest at the mention of Gerald's golf clubs. You went through Gerald's things? He's been gone 8 years, Grandma. Don't you think it's time? I set down my teacup before I could throw it. Where are his golf clubs, Olivia? I listed them online. They're vintage worth quite a bit, actually. A man from Mississauga is coming to look at them on Saturday. The clubs he won in the Ontario Amateur Championship in 1984? Well, yes, but get out. Olivia blinked. What? Get out of my house. Now. Grandma, you're being emotional. Let's talk about this rationally. I am being rational. This is my house. Those are my belongings. You had no right to go through them, no right to decide what I should keep or discard, and absolutely no right to plan a sale without my permission. Now get out. You're going to regret this, Olivia said, standing. Her face had gone red. You're going to end up alone, buried under all this junk, and when you fall down those stairs or have a medical emergency, nobody will find you for days. Is that what you want? Right now? I want you out of my house. She grabbed her coat from the hook by the door. Fine, but don't call me when you need help. Don't call me when you realize you can't do this alone anymore. Because I'm done trying to help someone who won't help herself. The door slammed behind her. I sat very still in the sudden silence, listening to my heart pound. Then I got up, walked to the front lawn, and pulled that yellow sign out of the ground. I snapped it in half over my knee, something I probably shouldn't have done at my age, but adrenaline is a powerful thing, and threw it in the garbage bin. Then I went inside and started making phone calls. First, I called Catherine, Olivia's mother, and my daughter. She was at work, so I left a message. Catherine, it's your mother. We need to talk about Olivia. Call me back as soon as you can. Next, I called my sister Margaret in Vancouver. She answered on the second ring. Claire? I thought you weren't flying back until tomorrow. I took an earlier flight. Margaret, I need to tell you something. I explained the whole situation. When I finished, there was a long pause on the other end. That little, Margaret said. Claire, you need to check what else is missing. What do you mean? If she's been planning a sale and listing things online, some items might already be gone. You need to do an inventory. My stomach dropped. She was right. I spent the next 3 hours walking through my house with a notepad, listing everything I could remember that should be there but wasn't. The antique side table gone, the brass lamp gone, Gerald's fishing tackle box gone, his collection of vintage hockey cards that had belonged to his father gone, the sterling silver tea service my grandmother had brought from Scotland gone. By the time Catherine called back at 6 o'clock, I had a list of 37 items. Mom, I just got your message. What's going on? I told her. Everything. The sign, the missing furniture, the golf clubs, Olivia's speech about downsizing and liberation and not living in the past. Oh my God, Catherine said quietly. Mom, I had no idea. She told me she was helping you declutter. She said you'd asked her to. I never asked her for anything. She's been talking about how worried she is about you living alone. She said you were having memory problems, that you'd forgotten to pay bills, that you'd left the stove on twice. That's not true. None of that is true. I believe you, Mom. I do. But Olivia seemed so convinced. She said she was doing the right thing. Did she tell you she was planning to sell Gerald's championship golf clubs? Silence. Then, no, she didn't mention that. Or your grandmother's silver tea service? The one from Scotland? Mom, that's a family heirloom. Apparently, it was just clutter. I'm going to talk to her, Catherine said, her voice tight. This isn't okay. Don't tell her I called you. Not yet. Why not? Because I wanted time to think. Because something about this whole situation felt calculated rather than impulsive. Because in all the years I'd known my granddaughter, she'd never been particularly interested in helping me with anything, and now suddenly she was staging interventions? Just give me a few days, I said. Please. Catherine agreed reluctantly, and we hung up. I made myself dinner, leftover chicken and rice, and sat at my kitchen table, thinking. Olivia was 29 years old. She'd graduated from university 6 years ago with a degree in marketing and had been working for various companies since then. Last I'd heard, she was at a startup in downtown Toronto. She'd always been ambitious, always climbing, always wanting more. Catherine had mentioned a few months ago that Olivia was saving for a down payment on a condo, but was frustrated by Toronto's housing prices. A condo, a down payment. I got up and went to my computer. I wasn't as technologically helpless as Olivia seemed to think. I knew how to use Google, how to search online marketplaces. I typed in Vintage Golf Clubs Ontario and started scrolling. It took me 20 minutes, but I found them. Gerald's Clubs, listed on Kijiji for $1,200. Rare vintage set, the ad read. Championship winning clubs from 1,984 Ontario Amateur. Excellent condition. Serious buyers only. The seller's username was Olivia T29. I kept searching. The brass lamp listed for $300. The antique side table $600. The fishing tackle box $200. The hockey cards $1,500 for the complete collection. My hands were shaking as I added up the numbers. Just from what I could find online, Olivia had listed over $6,000 worth of my belongings, and those were just the items still for sale. How much had she already sold while I was in Vancouver? I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, Richard Chen. I'd known Richard for 30 years. He'd handled Gerald's estate when he passed. His secretary put me through immediately. Claire, he said warmly, how are you? I need your help with something. It's about my granddaughter. I explained the situation. Richard listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Claire, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What she's done is theft, Regardless of her intentions or relationship to you, she's taken your property without permission and is selling it for profit. You have grounds to press charges. I don't want to press charges. She's my granddaughter. I understand, but you need to protect yourself and your assets. Here's what I recommend. We talked for 40 minutes. By the end of the call, I had a plan. The next morning, I drove to the bank and met with my financial advisor, Patricia Kowalski. I'd been with Patricia for 15 years, and I trusted her completely. I need to review all my accounts, I said. Everything. Checking, savings, investments. I need to know if anyone besides me has accessed them recently. Patricia's professional smile faded. Is something wrong? I hope not. But I need to be sure. We spent 2 hours going through everything. My accounts were intact. Olivia didn't have access to any of them. Thank God, but Patricia flagged something concerning. You have your granddaughter listed as your power of attorney for financial matters, she said carefully. Did you know that? I felt like I'd been punched. What? It was set up 3 months ago. Here's the paperwork. She turned her monitor so I could see. There was my signature at the bottom of a power of attorney form, dated March 15th. I'd been in the hospital in March. I'd had pneumonia, spent 4 days at North York General. Olivia had come to visit every day, bringing flowers and magazines and endless cups of tea from Tim Hortons. She'd been so attentive, so caring. I never signed this, I said. Patricia's face went very still. Are you certain? I'm certain. I would never give anyone power of attorney without discussing it with my lawyer first. This is forged. If that's the case, we need to act immediately. I'll need you to sign a revocation of power of attorney right now, and I'm required to report this to our fraud department. Do it. All of it. Patricia made some calls. Within the hour, Olivia's power of attorney was revoked, and the bank's fraud investigator was opening a case. Patricia printed out a copy of everything for me to give to Richard. Claire, she said as I was leaving, I've seen this before, more often than you'd think. Adult children or grandchildren who convince themselves they're helping, that they know what's best. It starts with small things, helping with bills, organizing paperwork. Then it escalates. They convince themselves the elder is incompetent, that they're doing a kindness. In reality, it's financial abuse. Financial abuse. The words sat heavy in my chest as I drove home. I spent the afternoon contacting every buyer I could find from Olivia's online listings. I explained the situation, that the items had been listed without the owner's permission and were not actually for sale. Most people were understanding. A few were annoyed. One threatened to report me for wasting his time until I told him I'd be reporting the listings as fraudulent, which shut him down quickly. By evening, I'd successfully stopped the sale of everything I could find online, but I still didn't know what had already been sold or where those items had gone. Catherine called that night. Mom, I talked to Olivia. She's saying some things that really concern me. Like what? She says you're not thinking clearly, that you're confused about what you gave her permission to do. She says she has power of attorney and has been managing your affairs because you asked her to. I never gave her power of attorney. The signature on that form was forged. The bank's fraud department is investigating. Catherine sucked in a breath. Oh my God! Did she tell you how much money she was making from selling my things? No. She said she was donating most of it to charity, that you wanted to simplify your life before you got too old to make these decisions yourself. Catherine, I'm 73, not 93. I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions. And I certainly didn't ask anyone to sell Gerald's championship golf clubs. I know, Mom, I know. I'm so sorry. I should have checked with you directly. It's not your fault. But maybe it was partly mine. When had I stopped being a person to Olivia and become a problem to be solved? When had my age become a reason to dismiss my autonomy? The next day, Thursday, my doorbell rang at 9 in the morning. I looked through the peephole and saw Olivia standing on my porch, looking upset. I didn't open the door. Grandma, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I don't have anything to say to you. The bank called me. They said you revoked my power of attorney and accused me of fraud. Grandma, I'm trying to help you. Why are you making this so difficult? I opened the door but kept the chain lock on. You forged my signature. I did not. You signed that form in the hospital. You were on medication. You probably don't remember. I was on antibiotics for pneumonia, Olivia, not sedatives. I remember every conversation we had in that hospital, and we never discussed power of attorney. You're confused. I'm not confused. You took advantage of me when I was vulnerable. You forged a legal document. You've been stealing my property and selling it. All of that is illegal. Her face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like the little girl who used to spend weekends at my house, baking cookies and playing in the backyard. I was just trying to help. You're getting older, and someone needs to look out for you. Someone needs to make sure you're safe. I am safe. I'm safe from you now. You're going to regret this. When you're alone and something happens, then something happens. That's my choice to make, not yours. I closed the door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Olivia had said, about being alone, about needing help. The truth was, I did worry sometimes. About falling, about getting sick, about what would happen if I couldn't take care of myself. But that didn't give anyone the right to take over my life without my consent. Friday morning, Richard called. I've been in touch with the police. Given the forged power of attorney and the value of the items taken, they're willing to open an investigation. But Claire, they want to know if you're willing to press charges. I thought about Olivia as a child, the way she'd sit in Gerald's lap while he read her stories. The Christmas mornings, the birthday parties, the graduation we'd all celebrated just a few years ago. What are my other options? We can pursue this civilly. File for recovery of stolen property, demand restitution for items that can't be recovered. It would be public record, but not criminal. We could also negotiate a settlement. She returns what she can, pays fair value for what she's already sold, and signs an agreement never to interfere with your affairs again. Would she face any consequences? That depends on what we can prove and what she's willing to admit. But at minimum, she'd have to acknowledge wrongdoing and make financial restitution. Let's try that first. But Richard, if she refuses, I want you to pursue every legal option available. Understood. Saturday morning, the day of the unauthorized moving sale that was never going to happen, I woke early. At 8 o'clock, my doorbell started ringing. I'd expected this. I opened the door to find a small crowd on my lawn, 7 or 8 people, looking at their phones and then at my house number. "Excuse me," said a woman in yoga pants. "Is this 147 Elmwood? The ad said there's a moving sale starting at 9. "I'm sorry," I said. "There's been a mistake. There is no sale. Someone posted that without my permission." "Are you kidding?" "I drove here from Scarborough." I apologize for the inconvenience. The person who posted that ad did so fraudulently. There's nothing for sale here. More people arrived as I was explaining. By 9 o'clock, there were at least 15 people milling around, some angry, some confused. One man accused me of being a scammer. I had to explain 3 times that I was the victim, not the perpetrator. Finally, they dispersed. I went back inside, exhausted. My phone rang immediately. It was Olivia. "Did you seriously turn away all those people? I told you there would be no sale. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused me? How embarrassing this is? People are leaving negative reviews on my profile because I wouldn't let you sell my belongings? Grandma, I've spent weeks organizing this. I've already promised certain items to people. I've got a buyer coming this afternoon for the golf clubs. The golf clubs aren't for sale. Nothing is for sale. And if you're smart, you'll take down every listing immediately before my lawyer adds them to the case file." "Case file?" "You're receiving a letter from Richard Chen's office on Monday. It will outline your options. I suggest you read it carefully." I hung up. The rest of Saturday was quiet. I spent it the way I'd spent many Saturdays since Gerald died, puttering in the garden, reading, making soup for the week ahead. Normal, peaceful, mine. Sunday afternoon, Catherine came over. She looked tired. "I talked to Olivia again," she said. "She's scared, Mom. She knows she messed up." "Good. She wants to apologize. She can apologize by returning my property and paying for what she's already sold. She said she spent some of the money already. She used it for her condo fund. I felt a flash of anger so intense I had to sit down, so she did know exactly what she was doing. She said she planned to tell you once she had enough saved. She thought you'd be proud that she was using family heirlooms to build her future. Family heirlooms are meant to be passed down, not sold off for someone's down payment. Catherine sat beside me on the sofa. I know. You're right. I told her that. I also told her that if she doesn't make this right, she's not just losing her grandmother, she's losing me too. I reached for my daughter's hand. Thank you. What do you want to happen, Mom? Really? What did I want? I wanted my granddaughter to understand what she'd done, not just the theft and the forgery, but the violation, the assumption that my age made me incompetent, that my attachment to my belongings was weakness rather than connection to my past. I wanted her to see me as a person, not a problem. I want my things back, I said, the ones she still has. I want fair compensation for the ones she's sold. And I want a written agreement that she'll never have access to my home, my finances, or my affairs again without my explicit, documented permission. She'll agree to that. I'll make sure of it. Richard's letter arrived at Olivia's apartment on Monday. By Tuesday, she'd called his office to schedule a meeting. By Wednesday, we were all sitting in Richard's conference room. Me, Richard, Catherine, Olivia, and Olivia's friend Derek, who apparently fancied himself a legal advisor despite having no actual legal training. Olivia looked small in the big leather chair. Her eyes were red. I want to start by saying I'm sorry, she said, looking at me. I really thought I was helping. I thought you were struggling more than you wanted to admit, but I see now that I overstepped. I should have talked to you. You should have respected my autonomy, I said. I'm old, Olivia, not incompetent. I know that now. Richard laid out the terms. Olivia would return all items still in her possession within 1 week. She would provide a complete accounting of everything she'd sold, along with receipts or records of the sales. She would reimburse me for the value of those items within 90 days, and she would sign a legal agreement relinquishing any claim to my property or affairs. Derek tried to argue that some of the terms were too harsh, that Olivia couldn't afford to pay everything back so quickly. Richard calmly pulled out the fraud investigation paperwork from the bank and the police report I'd filed as a backup. These are the generous terms, he said. The alternative is criminal charges for theft, forgery, and elder financial abuse. I believe my client is being quite reasonable. Olivia signed the agreement. Over the next 2 weeks, items slowly returned to my house. The brass lamp, the fishing tackle box, the hockey card collection, the side table. Not everything came back. Some things had been sold to buyers Olivia couldn't track down. Some had been donated before she'd realized I'd revoked her access. But she provided detailed records of everything, along with a payment plan that Richard approved. The golf clubs came back last. Olivia delivered them herself on a Saturday afternoon 3 weeks after that yellow sign had appeared in my yard. I'm sorry about these especially, she said, setting them carefully in the hallway. I know they meant a lot to Grandpa. They mean a lot to me, I said, because they were his. She nodded. I get that now. I think I wanted to help. I wanted to feel like I was doing something useful, like I was the one taking care of you for once, instead of the other way around. I don't need taking care of, Olivia. I know. And when I do, I'll ask. On my terms. Okay. She turned to leave, then paused. Can I ask you something? Why did you stay so calm through all of this? When I put up that sign, when you found out what I'd done, you never yelled. You just handled it. I thought about that, about the moment I'd seen that yellow sign, about the cold anger that had settled in my chest, about the decision I'd made to respond strategically rather than emotionally. Because anger without action is just noise, I said. I learned that from your grandfather. He used to say, when something matters, you don't shout about it, you fix it. Olivia smiled sadly. I wish I'd learned more from him. You still can. That's the thing about lessons, Olivia. They're available at any age. She left. I stood in my hallway, looking at Gerald's golf clubs. I'd have them cleaned and restored, put them back in their proper place. This house was full of proper places, full of memories and meaning. Maybe to Olivia it looked like clutter, but to me, it was a life. That evening, I called Margaret. "How did it go?" she asked. "It's over." She returned what she could, agreed to pay for the rest. "And how are you doing with all of it?" I walked to the living room window and looked out at my garden. The roses Gerald had planted were starting to bloom. Another spring, another season of growth. I was 73 years old. I lived alone. I liked my life exactly as it was. "I'm good," I said. "I'm really good." Because here's what I'd learned. Getting older doesn't make you less capable. It makes you more experienced. It doesn't diminish your right to make decisions about your own life. Age brings wisdom, not incompetence. And anyone who can't see that difference doesn't have your best interests at heart, no matter what they claim. I spent the next few months settling back into my routine. I joined a book club at the local library, something I'd been meaning to do for years. I started volunteering at the community garden downtown. I took a watercolor painting class on Thursday afternoons. My life expanded in small, satisfying ways. Catherine and I grew closer. She came for dinner every Sunday, and we talked about things we'd never discussed before, her worries about her own aging, her regrets about not seeing the warning signs with Olivia sooner, her own struggles with feeling invisible as a woman in her 50s. "When did we become problems instead of people?" she asked one evening over coffee. "When we let other people's perceptions matter more than our own reality," I said. As for Olivia, she made her payments on time every month. She sent a card on my birthday with a simple message, "Thinking of you. Love, Olivia." I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it away either. Maybe someday we'd find our way back to some version of a relationship, but it would be on terms we both agreed to, with boundaries we both respected. One afternoon in late summer, I was in the garden when my neighbor Helen called over the fence. She was 81, sharp as ever, and had lived on this street even longer than I had. "Claire, I heard about what happened with your granddaughter. My daughter tried something similar with me last year." I set down my trowel. "Really? Wanted to move me into a retirement home so she could sell my house and invest the money for my future. As if I don't know what's best for my own future. I told her the same thing my mother told me when I was young and stupid. Just because you think something is true doesn't make it so." We talked for an hour, sharing stories of well-meaning children and the fine line between helping and controlling. By the time we finished, we decided to start a monthly coffee group for women in the neighborhood who were tired of being treated like their age made them invisible or incapable. We called it the Still Here, Still Clear group. 12 women showed up to our first meeting. By the third month, we had 25. We shared resources about power of attorney, estate planning, and protecting ourselves from financial abuse. We talked about setting boundaries with adult children. We discussed how to ask for help when we needed it without surrendering our autonomy. And we reminded each other that growing older is a privilege, not a problem. One woman in her 80s said something that stuck with me. "They think because our bodies are slowing down, our minds must be too. But my body has arthritis, my brain doesn't." Yes, I thought. Exactly that. So here's what I want you to know. Whether you're 73 like me or 33 like Olivia, age doesn't erase personhood. It doesn't give anyone the right to make decisions for you, to dismiss your choices, or to treat your life as something to be managed rather than lived. If someone tries to convince you that you're not capable of handling your own affairs, ask yourself, who benefits from that belief? If the answer is anyone other than you, be very, very careful. Set your boundaries clearly, protect your autonomy fiercely, and remember that asking for help on your own terms is strength, not weakness, but having help forced upon you is control, not care. I still live in my house on Elmwood Avenue. I still have Gerald's golf clubs in their display case. I still keep too many things that other people might call clutter, but I call memories. And I'm still here, still clear, still making my own decisions about my own life. That's not being difficult. That's not being bitter. That's not refusing help. That's being alive. And at 73 years old, I'm not done living yet.